What if the smartest scam in football was completely legal? A global network, 13 clubs, and one empire rewriting the rules without ever breaking them. Because this isn't just ownership, it's manipulation. Regulators can't stop it. Rivals can't compete. And at the heart of it all is a club you know, a face you've seen, and a plan no one saw coming. Sheikh Mansour, a member of Abu Dhabi's royal family and vice president of the UAE, bought Manchester City for £210 million. At the time, City were trophy-starved and forgettable. No global fan base, no silverware legacy. Today, they're one of the most dominant football clubs on the planet. Champions League winners, 6 Premier League titles, billions in value. But here's where it gets strange. Mansour has only been seen at 2 matches in over a decade. He rarely gives interviews, never lifts the trophy. So why spend billions on a football club if not for the love of the game? At the time, critics dismissed the purchase, a PR stunt, a wealthy sheikh trying to polish his country's image. Pundits laughed it off. Abu Dhabi buying Manchester City? They won't last 2 seasons. Yet, over the next 10 years, Sheikh Mansour's group spent more on football infrastructure than the annual GDP of over 50 countries. And still, he almost never showed up. Who spends billions to not even watch? Then came the twist. In 2013, the City Football Group was born. Not just Manchester anymore, but Girona in Spain, Mumbai in India, New York, Melbourne, Uruguay, and more. Today, they own or control 13 clubs on 5 continents, from marketing to transfers to youth development, all linked under one corporate roof. So what was this really about? What kind of power do you get when you control not just one club, but an entire football ecosystem? UEFA's financial fair play rules were supposed to stop billionaires from outspending their rivals. You couldn't spend more than you earned. Simple, right? So City found a workaround. Instead of injecting cash directly, they made it look like it came from sponsors like Etihad Airways, Etisalat, and others. One leaked invoice told the story. Etihad was supposed to pay £35 million for shirt sponsorship, but documents showed it only paid £8 million. That missing £27 million came from the Executive Affairs Authority, the same government body that runs Abu Dhabi's propaganda and intelligence operations. In other words, state money was being disguised as sponsorship revenue. That's not just fraud, it's fraud disguised as business. It's like saying a lemonade stand made millions because the king bought a glass. For years, no one questioned it. The numbers passed audits. UEFA looked the other way until someone leaked the invoice. And the questions started. This wasn't clever accounting. This was a government rewriting financial reality, using football as the disguise. And everyone who tried to trace the money hit a dead end. It looked clean, it looked profitable, but it wasn't real. And if the money wasn't real, what else was being faked? Because in a quiet apartment in Portugal, a hacker named Rui Pinto had just pressed send, and the entire illusion was about to collapse. In 2018, a Portuguese hacker named Rui Pinto did what UEFA never could. He cracked open the vault. Millions of documents were released through what became known as the Football Leaks, a bombshell archive exposing hidden transfers, secret commissions, off-the-books payments, and Manchester City's digital paper trail. One internal email read, We can't show the payment routes, so call it partner funding. Another? The remaining balance is handled separately by His Highness. This wasn't a rumor. It wasn't speculation. It was written in black and white. And the source? Not a rogue intern, not an external contractor, but Simon Pierce, Sheikh Mansour's right-hand man, and a senior official in Abu Dhabi's propaganda agency. Another email, this time from Etihad's own finance officer, admitted, "Our actual contribution is £4 million. The rest comes from elsewhere." That elsewhere? Straight from the Abu Dhabi Royal Fund. The sponsorship was fake. The revenue was fake. The financial compliance? An illusion. And the man who exposed it all? He now lives under witness protection. Feared, hunted, silenced. Because he didn't just leak documents. He lit a match. And UEFA? They had the emails, the receipts, the evidence, but they didn't act. At least, not fast enough. So, when they finally brought charges, how did City still walk free? In 2020, UEFA dropped the hammer, a 2-year Champions League ban for Manchester City. The charges? Fake sponsorships, fake numbers, intentional obstruction, emails, invoices, and a refusal to cooperate. For a moment, it looked like justice might win, until City appealed, not to a public court, but to CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Unlike real courts, CAS is private. No public transcripts, no jury, no real oversight. And City came armed. City hired 12 lawyers, including 2 King's Counsel. UEFA sent 3 general counsels and a PowerPoint. UEFA's entire legal budget? 1.5 million euros. City's war chest? Over 30 million euros. Just for this case. It wasn't a fair fight. It wasn't meant to be. 2 of the 3 CAS judges? Proposed by Manchester City. And the verdict? Ban lifted. Fine reduced. Evidence? Dismissed as out of date or unreliable. It wasn't that City were innocent. It was that the system was never built to stop them. And while the spotlight faded from the courtroom, City returned to the pitch. Here's the real question. Did they go on to win the very trophies they were banned from? And if so, should those titles even count? And while the spotlight faded from the courtroom, a much darker operation was quietly expanding. While the world focused on whether Manchester City would be banned from the Champions League, City Football Group was building something much bigger, a global football cartel. Here's how the real scam works. Own the ecosystem. City Football Group owns clubs in leagues with different rules, from Spain to Australia to Japan. Control player movement. Players are rotated between clubs to inflate values, hide costs, or delay scrutiny. Loop sponsorship revenue. Companies like Etihad or Etisalat appear across clubs, making inflated deals look legitimate. Use partner equity to disguise injections. Money goes in under one name, gets renamed, and exits as revenue. In 2022 alone, City Football Group orchestrated over 60 internal transfers, most never questioned by regulators. One club, Troyes in France, received 12 players in a single season from other CFG teams. That's not competition, that's choreography. When critics raised concerns, they were brushed off. Multi-club ownership, they said, was just modern strategy. But this wasn't strategy. It was domination of players, of markets, of the rules themselves. The club that was almost banned is now building an empire, one league at a time. And every time the system fails to stop them, CFG doesn't just win, they set a new precedent. If this is what they've already built, what happens when everyone else starts copying the blueprint? City weren't the only ones watching. While Manchester City fought off bans and rewrote financial rules, others were quietly copying the blueprint. Red Bull owns Leipzig, Salzburg, New York, and Bragantino. Chelsea under Todd Boehly bought Strasbourg, with more clubs likely to follow. Saudi Arabia's PIF, the same fund behind Newcastle United, is building its own global web. Between 2015 and 2023, the number of multi-club groups tripled, now controlling over 180 clubs across 6 continents. This isn't just expansion, it's consolidation. Red Bull's empire spans 4 clubs, 3 continents, and just 1 owner, who also controls the sponsors, scouts, and data behind them. That's not a football strategy, that's vertical integration, the same playbook used by oil giants and tech monopolies. Why buy players when you can own the teams that produce them? Why negotiate with sponsors when you can sponsor yourself? The old rules were about fairness. The new game? Control everything. UEFA says it's monitoring the trend, but when the regulators are outnumbered by the owners, who's really in control? The risk? One owner controlling an entire tournament, from clubs to referees to broadcast rights. And one of those cartels isn't just copying the scam, they've perfected it, with UEFA's silent approval. In 2023, the Premier League charged Manchester City with 115 breaches of financial regulations, the most ever brought against a single club. This time, things were different. No time limits on charges, no appeal to CAS. Football Leaks emails? Fully admissible. And the evidence? The same documents leaked by Rui Pinto, the man who risked everything to make them public. The case? Still ongoing, still private, but this time, City can't run. That's more charges than the bottom 10 Premier League clubs combined. The league alleges fake financial statements, obstruction of investigations, concealment of revenue, misleading signatures from senior directors. If proven true, City could face title stripping, points deductions, or total expulsion from the Premier League. The same club that should have been banned from Europe in 2020 went on to win the Champions League in 2023. But here's the real twist. Even if they're punished, the system stays intact. City Football Group owns too many clubs, in too many countries, with too many loopholes. The rules that should have stopped them, they broke them once and rewrote them forever. And now, others are following their playbook. Red Bull, Saudi PIF, Todd Boehly. But one of them may already be untouchable. City Football Group was just the prototype, because there's another cartel growing faster, more aggressive, more protected. Red Bull, with clubs, sponsors, scouting pipelines, and UEFA's blessing. And beneath the surface, rumors of a UEFA executive helping shield them from regulation. But that's a story for another time. In our next episode, the untouchable club cartel inside Red Bull's football empire.